Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Book to Block, the series where I bring my fantasy novel to life in Minecraft, one block at a time. In the last episode, we were working on the housing back there. I've done a little bit of work, we'll go over that in a second, but in today's episode, we're going to be coming over here to work on the marketplace. But before we get to the marketplace, we're just going to do a quick little rundown of the different builds I've done for the housing. So as you can see, I've done a bit of the mixing of the textures for the different blocks on this roof with the stairs and slabs. And then I've gone in, added a little lantern to each of the front doors, just for a little bit of lighting with that. And then on here on the inside, I've just done some basic decorations, nothing too fancy. Adding a little kitchen area, little seating area. I've gone and added second floors for most of the builds. Nice little corner for a bed. I can add a lot more detail later, but these aren't really the priority. It's more of just creating the environment of the whole build. So I'm not too worried about getting each of these individually kind of built up, because my goal is to create the path that goes with the book. So any place that the main character would visit in the story, that's where I'll be doing a lot more detail instead of in these kind of side houses that don't have as much need for the detail. They're more of just the exteriors that are important. But most of them are pretty much done. I might go in and do another pass of the interiors, adding small extra details, kind of like how I did over in the village, with a little bit more like details, doing like with the kind of entities. Yeah, that's the word I was thinking of. Doing entities and maybe adding like the flower pots or adding a furnace in here. Just small things like that, just because I don't really need a lot of detail, but it'd be nice to have a decent amount. And then after that is done, I can start copying and pasting these into the other spaces. Like all the way over here, I got lots of room. Maybe I'll take them in these spots, or maybe I'll create a couple extra, like I said, that have the roofs kind of conjoined into the walls themselves. So when thinking about markets, I've kind of got this place in mind. I've already built a small market up here, just with like these kind of wool roofs, bit of wood, and then decorated with all these different entities and player heads, custom ones I did. So with that in mind, I've got to kind of think of how I want it to look in more of a built-up area, because this is a city versus village. They might not be quite as small and, well, obviously not made of wool, because it'd be very dangerous to have anything like that in a place with lava running right beside it. So I've got to kind of pick up a style that I want to work with for this build. Alright, so I've gone back through my book, and luckily because of this, I don't have to think of different ideas for what I want for the different stalls in this marketplace. I've actually got some I just wrote down in this book here. So here are just a couple that I just picked up from small like inserts I wrote. I didn't really think about it at the time. It was just whatever came to mind of what could be a marketplace stall. So like some of these are kind of like offshoots of the main store. So I'll have a larger shop in one of these or any of the orange ones here or on the other side up over here. They could also be attached to the workshops or industrial, kind of like the blacksmith. That's more, I'd say, that's kind of hard to say because it feels like a workshop, but you'd get the stuff from the industrial area. Because like I said, industrial is going to be like, I guess it is the blacksmith. So I guess the industrial area will have its offshoot in the marketplace, which is just a small stall, selling it to like any travelers. Because what probably happens is you come through, you walk through this way when you come into the kind of city, and you just visit the marketplace. This is where everyone kind of gathers to get anything they need for traveling in this area. It can help for any of the people living up in the villages over here or in the mountains. If they need to drop off, get some just cheap equipment, probably the smaller blacksmith would be the place to go, opposed to like the full blacksmith shop, which probably has the more expensive and better gear for maybe the richer people or anyone who's looking for lifelong tools and such. Then we got a rune enchanter. So in the world, there's many different races. So of course dwarves I've been talking about basically mainly, because this is their homeland. Not too far after we leave this area, there'll be a large city of gnomes. And in my kind of universe, gnomes are the master rune enchanters. So it's a craft they kind of honed over centuries and centuries, because they are also one of the long-lived kind of races. Because like if you think humans live for 100 years, dwarves for about 300, and I think gnomes like 400 to 500. I'm basing this off of like anything you can find online, with like D&D rules and things like that, but like also giving my own kind of spin on them. But that's just kind of the basis for what I kind of think. But these gnomes, they're master rune workers, so they kind of enchant gear and tools with kind of like how you enchant in Minecraft, but with runes. So I've made up my own kind of rune language just from random characters I found online and pasted them together. It's kind of a lazy alphabet. It's not like I invented a language like Tolkien for Lord of the Rings, but it's good enough for what my kind of plan is. I don't need that high of detail quite yet. Maybe in the future I'll write my own language and stuff like that, but for now it's just an alphabet that can be translated easily to English. But using those runes, you can just write them on any gear or any tools, and it enchants them like in Minecraft to make them stronger, more protective, and things like that. After that, we got just a basic coal seller, so someone maybe from the mountains is a coal, like, because the starter village is an iron mine, so maybe one of the other ones is a coal mine up here in the mountains. And then every so often they come to market and they sell just barrels of coal and things like that. We've also got just basic food merchants, because I'm going to have probably quite a few different food vendors in these different shops, for like a baker, somewhat like a butcher for different types of meats and things like that. But there might be just a small stall, kind of like how I have in the village here, for just basic foods, or maybe even exotic foods, like they're brought in from outside the region of the Stone Peak Mountains, or the Frostcrag Mountains. Sorry about that. That's the wrong name. So the Frostcrag Mountains, that's what this kind of region is called. So maybe someone from outside, maybe a dwarf, traveled and grabbed some food from out there, or a different race came in and they've set up shop in the marketplace, because it's easier to get a market stall than it is to get an entire shop. And we got just a basic candle lantern maker, because that is basically the only form of lighting other than the lava in this world. So someone's got to have kind of a monopoly over that. Secondhand tools, so kind of like the small blacksmith. I'll probably combine those into one. It's just like secondhand tools, so not the best, but it's enough to get you through the day. After that, we got the alchemist. So just a base, because that one came from the book, directly quoted from it. Just an alchemist, they've got different vials of stuff. Maybe you got some different like herbs and like different like foliage that can be turned into potions and things like that. That could also be one of the shops, and this might just be an offshoot run by one of the family members. And we got a cloth merchant, and then finally a jeweler. So both of those are just going to be small stalls. If I can't fit into here, I might take over some of these spots, because I have so many of these large kind of for the big shops. I might take over like spots like this or here that's near the kind of market, just because I won't have enough space, because I don't want to make them kind of small like these ones. Because this is for a village, this is for a grand city, the kind of capital of this region. So it needs to be kind of appropriate to that size. That's how I've been going with like the builds. They've been going bigger, even if like they're the size of the larger builds of the houses over here, but these are considered small for the kind of scale of this. Like you can see this one's larger than most. It's got multiple stories, a lot more detail, and other ones like this, those will get that kind of same treatment. Alright, so now that we got our kind of like list of the different builds, we kind of have to pick a style. Because like over here, it's kind of consistent style, and then over in the market, we have the consistent style of this marketplace with the different wool alternating colors and stuff like that. So now we gotta kind of come up with style for over here. I don't want to copy either of these styles directly, but they kind of have to be influenced. Because it's going to be stalls like over here, but not wool. It's probably going to be like this deep slate and maybe copper, just to keep the theme of this city. Alright, so for most of the stalls, they're going to look something like this. I went in just with the cobble deep slate, just for one color, and I can go back and do a little bit more detailing later. But the base is, you have a small little stall like this, making stone, obviously not the wood and wool. And then you come up here, we got the, gotta turn no clip off. We got kind of the counter here where the things will be kind of set aside. Got places where things can be stored, where the kind of vendors can chill out and have all their product. And then we have kind of like a little sign on top. So this is just a placeholder. I can put anything here. So if it's blacksmith, maybe I took a hammer. I can do kind of what I did. If we zoom back over to the village for this blacksmith, as you can see, we got these little entity signs, and then same over here for the inn. So I can custom create a couple different signs, create a nice like backing. So like this dark, what is it, the black stone here. If I create like a kind of base sign, and then I put in the detail part on top of it, however I feel like. After this, we kind of have to choose which location each place is going to go. So like this place over here, right beside the lava, I think this would be perfect for the blacksmith, or like the toolsmith. So let's go in blacksmith. So that's just to place that, because it's by the lava, so they'll need the heat. Maybe they shimmy a little closer, kind of they have like a little path down to it so they can pick up the lava, so they can do all their like small foraging here and things like that. But looking at this size, I kind of have to choose how many I want in here. So I'm going to have one on this side, one on probably this corner, and then kind of place them along. So I'm going to choose about the same size, and then just make them so I know how many things I got to build. Alright, so over here we're going to have one kind of take this corner here, and then the same for this side. I went and removed all the blue just so I can get the fresh new look on it. So we'll have this one maybe a little further back than that, but approximately that size. It'll use up all of this space. These will be kind of the premium ones, because you got it. If you go either way, you're going to have to pass this guy. Then we have to pick another one here to kind of fill in that area. I think I'm going to have a little bit of a gap in between each one. So we can kind of go, that's that side, and then bring it over to here. So that's about the size I'm thinking. And then I want gaps in between everything. So like for the backing here, there's going to be a small gap in between. It's kind of messy because it's hard to draw straight lines when you're kind of flying like this. But there'll be like a small gap in between here, like this, so that people can kind of shimmy through. Maybe that's where they load up their product and stuff, how they get it into kind of like the storage at the back and things. So I'm going to go around and let's kind of paint decent sizes so I know about how many. If I'm going by this size, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 here, and then 6, 7, 8, 9. So that should be enough. I maybe just do the backings now. So there, and then there, and then we have larger shops. So if I'll do over here first, so that's 1, that's 2, because then there's going to be lots of space in these back areas. So maybe I do a quick path, and these are like the lesser known ones, or I just extend these a lot further back and have it kind of like you walk off the path and it's not quite in the kind of build yet. So like the build starts here, but there's this extra space in the beginning just to push it back so that the small like so that the kind of middle part is less a part of like just a big gap and more just a part of all these different builds. And then we can also have where this one might turn into, we can just turn it into a large one, because this would be kind of like a hub where people come down here to either go up there, that way, or all the way up to the mountains. So this would be a more traveled area, so this would be the expensive area to kind of rent your stall. Alright, so I did just a quick little demo of what I think a different type will be. So I've got the same of the cobble deep slate, went in with a bit of the polish for the kind of back room. Got a couple of signs that are going to be showing what it is. I think this one's going to be the jeweler. Nice prime location for expensive things like that. Got plenty of counter space, and then a nice little door coming back to here. A couple of barrels for storage, and then like kind of a workspace. So I got the diamond on the table, polishing. Well, this is grindstone, but you can use it to polish things. Plenty of space to walk around in and things like that. And then place for the sign. I then went and just copied everything. Guess I missed the corner, just to kind of get a feel of how dense I want this kind of marketplace to be. So this is just getting the feel of how much I want in this marketplace itself. So just kind of walking through, ignore the middle one. So I kind of have to fill in the gaps. I don't want it to be too kind of, well, obviously not too uniform, but I also don't want it to be too like dense, but leaving huge gaps in certain areas. So you kind of have to find the balance in between. Alright, so now that we kind of have an idea of the shaping of everything we want, let's remove all of these and get to building some more stiles. Alright, so I've gone with a couple different types of styles here, but keeping consistent with my copper line. I mixed up with this one with these walls here, just to play around with a bit of different style. But right now, they're all very just blocky, very plain textures. I need to get some texturing in there. So I gotta mess around with some different colors. Because if you look at this, these are the same blocks, but in the hand, it looks a lot darker, because obviously, texture pack. So this looks a lot darker and it's more contrasty. But once you add the light of the shaders here, it looks a little bit more faded out. So I need to work on some blocks that kind of work a bit better. I went around to kind of mess with these like bits here where it's like it was a flat area, but I added in these walls to add a bit of depth into there. And same over here. I haven't gotten to this one, but in each of them, it's very similar to how I did all the houses. Basically just build a structure, add the line, roof, finish, but these ones have the open fronts. Places for these signs where I'm going to put the products, same to what I did in the supermarket. Let's fly over there real quick. So if we come on into here, similar to what I got here. So you can see I've got them here. I can hide the gizmo so it looks a little bit better. But just having these products on the signs, which helps out with just like knowing visually what you got. And then I can go mess around with things like this, where I got the sugar or salt in these barrels with a nice little shovel, like looking like a spoon. Things like over here with the fishing rods or barrels of berries, things like that. Just easy ways to display the products, just to add a little bit more character to the build itself. So let's get to texturing them first, and then we can worry about finishing off. Because I've got 4 here. This small one probably won't see the light of day because it is just the most basic and kind of just like what would be a thrown up stall. I might use it for maybe like the coal one because it's used by like a village up in the mountains where they only come by once a month or something to drop off and sell their coal here. So maybe it's like in the outskirts or like kind of shoved off into the corner somewhere. It's not one of these main big stalls that are like generational, passed down, father to son, mother to daughter kind of thing, where it's always been in the family and now they're staying here and it's been there for decades or maybe centuries. So let's get to texturing and then maybe a bit of detailing. And for the last couple, I might just do those another time because I spent a long time with these, and with my other series of the hardcore world, I want to play a bit more of that because that's really been something I've been enjoying lately. So let's get to texturing first. Alright, so there's a bit of the texture again. So now it looks a little bit more messy, a little bit less clean, and a little less light. So that was the problem I was having with the shaders. It makes it a lot lighter than what it is in usually what you see in Minecraft. But it kind of fades out, so like you can see these are very vibrant and just single colored for the orange here. But once you put on the shaders, you can kind of get like a gradient just because of the sun and how it's hitting it. But that's these ones done. The rest of them are just going to be very similar. Basically, build a house, turn the front into the shop, keep it low. I won't go for these kind of second story bits, and just kind of place them around. After that, we got plenty more to do. I think I might work on getting these copied over because I said I didn't really care about the interiors too much. So like even this one, I haven't even gotten to. I think I finished majority of them. As you can see, like this one's finished, or mostly. I just never really liked how the outer wall was the messy of the kind of shading that auto shaded it. So I tried working with the walls, but again, it doesn't matter as much because if this was going to be turned into like somewhat of like an adventure map where you could follow the hero's journey, you would never even go into these houses. Like these doors would be locked like a regular iron door would, or with some sort of technology making it impossible to open. Because that's not where you're supposed to go. You're supposed to follow the story, go to the inn, visit key points, get information, continue the story, things like that. So I'll worry about sprucing up this world if I ever have extreme amounts of time down the line. Because since this isn't like a full-time job, don't have that many subscribers yet, I can't be putting all of my time into making this the most perfect kind of world ever in every little detail. I want to get so much on the map so then when I can do later on, like down the road, is I can come back and really spruce up. I can maybe make these walls taller, more grand, add more detail so it's not just the same thing over and over. Maybe have unique things, and then add interiors to things like this. That's kind of the long-term goal. But for short-term, I'm just building for the sake of building, having a little bit of fun, and sharing my journey with you. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like and subscribe for more episodes coming soon. Until next time.